Hello, this section is entitled Enabling APIs Within Projects. So Google Cloud APIs are programming interfaces to the services they provide. These APIs are essentially exposed as network APIs, so they're basically accessed through a client talking to a server, and the server is exposing this API. So the thing you might be thinking is, why are we talking about APIs? I want to, configure my infrastructure maybe through the Google Cloud Console. What's the whole point of these APIs? And what you got to keep in mind is the primary interfaces to interacting with Google Cloud, right? They all use these programming APIs. Even the Google Cloud Console, the web API, the web interface, is actually using the APIs under the hood. So the three main ways that you interact with Google Cloud. One is through the Google Console, which is a basically web-based GUI. But again, it's talking behind the scenes. It's talking to its own APIs as it's operating. There is also a command line interface called, we'll talk about it later, but it's called G-Cloud. And what that does is, again, it's a command line tool, but really what it's doing is just providing an easy access to all these various API calls. And the last example is you can actually use the Google Cloud's software development kit. In this case, you're actually writing code and you're interacting through the software development kit to these APIs. So long story short, it's all about the APIs. Okay, so the next thing we want to know is, what APIs are there, and just kind of poke around a little bit. So what we're going to do is we'll go to our project. So we're in our training main project. And over here, there is a menu called APIs and Services. And we'll start off by the dashboard. And so first of all, this is sort of, we really haven't done many API calls at this point, right? So that's why there's no data right now. But if you scroll down, you can see this section down here are all the enabled APIs and how many requests you've done, right? And we haven't done any of these things so far. So the bunch of APIs are already here. Now, the interesting thing here is that these are APIs that are kind of pre-enabled on new projects. So I didn't enable anything yet. These were already here. So the question is, well, how do you enable APIs? Well, you can click on this button here, and you go into what's called the API library, and you can find things like Kubernetes, Engine API. That's another API that wasn't activated previously. If you click on this, and you can say enable, right? Or maybe another one might be Compute Engine API, and then you can enable it. So that's one way of enabling APIs, is to use the API and services. It's actually the same thing as the library here. You search for the API in question, Kubernetes, and then you activate it. Now, another way of activating APIs, if you were using their menu, and this is basically the menu to the left, is pretty much sort of the most popular APIs, or actually for the most part, it's actually a lot of them, right? So for example, if I was to go to our Kubernetes, you can find it, right? And I go to clusters, try to use the API, it will immediately say, hey, you're not, it doesn't actually show you your clusters or give you an option to do anything other than enabled API. So another way of enabling APIs is to try to use the feature from the menu, and it will automatically give you an option to enable the API. Now the third way of actually enabling APIs, some of the more popular APIs, so like for example, Compute Engine. If I actually try to use Compute Engine, right, you'll notice that it automatically says it's getting ready. So underneath the scene, what it's doing, it's actually enabling the API automatically. So I'm going to pause the video here because it's going to take about a minute or so, and then we'll see what happens when it's enabled. So let me pause the video. Okay, we're back. Took about 5 minutes, which is strangely long, but either way, basically now that little panel says that went away, and I can now create VM instances. So we're not going to talk about that now, but this is another API. Essentially allows us to create virtual machines that we can run compute workloads on. But that's not the point of this video. Just activating the API was the point. And we can also now go back to the screen that tells us what APIs are active, and we would hope to see Compute Engine API in the list. And if we, here it is right here, Compute Engine API. And in fact, it looks like when I just refresh that screen, you can see I've already made one request to that API. I was probably just trying to get a listing of the VM instances, and there was none, but there was still an API request. So that's really all we were going to do here in this video, was just talk about the fact that Google has APIs and we need to activate them before we can use them. That's it.